Hi everyone. Today we're looking at the GRRR for science and technology. We can see here that it says science and technology means the tools and methods used by people to get what they need and want. So we're really looking, I like to key in on that word tools. So we're looking for new ideas, new technologies. So 7 continents, 5 oceans. Please look them up if you need to label them. You can pause the video, and then we're going to draw an arrow to where each technology was developed. So our first bullet says, during the Neolithic Revolution, people began to farm, allowing for the beginning of civilization. So farming is actually considered to be a technology because it's a new method people used to get what they need, which is food. So farming during the Neolithic Revolution started in a lot of different places, including along all of the river valleys, so the Nile, the Tigris and Euphrates, the Indus, in China along the Yellow and the Huanghe. And we also saw it in central Mexico and in the Andes in different places. And specifically in the Nile, as well as the Tigris and Euphrates, they used something called a shadoof in order to irrigate the land. So along with the start of farming, we see different irrigation technologies that also helped. Gunpowder was invented under the Tang and Sung Golden Age in China. So this is a pretty major golden age you want to be aware of. They invented gunpowder, the magnetic compass, movable type, which was a method for printing. And all of those things had a major influence as they spread along the Silk Roads during the Pax Mongolia, which was the golden age of the Mongol culture. So the Tang and Sung came first, invented these things, and then spread during Mongol culture. So you want to draw your arrow right to China because that's where these things were invented. The magnetic compass, again, was developed at the same time. It places gunpowder, so Tang and Sung China, so you could just sort of link your arrow up there, and allowed for global exploration when combined with the astrolabe from the Muslims. So this is another great technology from the Muslim golden age, the astrolabe, which could tell you where you were on the planet and what time of day it was. So those two things together allowed for the age of exploration when the Europeans began exploring North and South America and the Indian Ocean. And then finally, ideas of the Protestant Reformation in Western Europe spread rapidly thanks to the printing press. So the printing press built on technologies that came from Asia and were traded along the Silk Road, such as movable type, different types of ink, a screw press, and then was very, very important in spreading the ideas of Martin Luther. Martin Luther began the Protestant Reformation. So that was very important, so that his writings could be rapidly reproduced and spread throughout Europe and really lit the fire of the Protestant Reformation. Okay, I'm going to move forward. You should pause the video here if you need more time. We're going to go down to our multiple choice questions. So, if we look at the multiple choice, number 1 says, one impact Gutenberg's printing press had on Western Europe was. So I really just answered that question for you above. So the printing press, Western Europe, that up here tells us that it was the start of the Protestant Reformation, and the Protestant Reformation was begun by Martin Luther. So you want to take a look and find an answer that has something to do with that. Number 2, one way the Incas adapted their environment was by. And so adapting your environment, again, is a way to get what you need and to change the environment. Technology allows us to overcome the environment. The Incas did this by building a network of roads through the mountains, specifically the Andes Mountains in South America. That allowed them to keep control of their empire. Another technology that an American used, the Aztec used chinampas. So these floating gardens, these are called chinampas, but that was used by the Aztec, not the Inca. This question is about the Inca, although this is another great example of modifying your environment to get what you need. Number 3, advances in navigation technology and the desire of Europeans to obtain goods from Asia are most closely associated with the. So they want goods from Asia, They've got technology like the magnetic compass and the astrolabe that can get them there. Which of these is a reason, which of these would have been a result of that? So these are causes, and these here are effects. So what was the effect of these new technologies and a desire for goods? I can tell you it's not age of reason, because that's something that we haven't studied and that you'll study in 10th grade. Feudalism we associate with Western Europe and Japan, as well as being isolated economically. So navigation technology wouldn't necessarily help. Agriculture is farming. So agricultural revolution is the start of farming. We saw it above as the Neolithic revolution. Those are synonyms for each other. And again, that's not really going to help you get any goods from Asia, right? So you're really looking for the age of exploration there when the Europeans begin exploring and then conquering the world. Okay, which achievements are most closely associated with the Tang and Sung dynasties in China? I'll ask you to go ahead and look above at the notes next to the map, or just rewind the video because I give you the answer to this question earlier in the presentation. Okay, I'm going to move forward to the document now. All right. So let's see what this has to say. So the source is Peter Amy, Scientific Revolution, Greenhaven Press. So I know right away that what I'm looking at is a change in science. And this is mostly happened in Europe. So the scientific revolution is something we associate with European history. And it says, based on this document, state 2 changes resulting from the scientific revolution. So let's go up and see. Gradually, scientists came to challenge more and more what the ancients, past civilizations, taught. So they're challenging. They're trying to come up with new ideas. They came to develop new, better methods of finding out how things worked. Sounds like a change to me. So that's pretty broad. Let's see if it gets more specific. Mathematical knowledge increased and helped them to reason. That's a change. They began to think up experiments to check their ideas in a methodical way, so that scientific process. The scientific revolution had begun. So this idea of the scientific process is used by the Europeans at this time, but was actually something that came from the Muslims. And so the Europeans increasingly were observing the Muslim scientists and took those ideas and applied it to their own concepts. Many men were needed to bring this about. These men came from every part of Europe. They wrote books to explain their ideas, and the printing press made it possible to produce thousands of copies, which found their way all over Europe. Scientists were now able to learn from each other and give one another new ideas. That's another change. So the printing press allows people to quickly learn about other ideas, so they can learn and challenge their own ideas and come up with new ones. So the scientific revolution was not the work of Englishmen or Frenchmen or Italians alone. It was the work of Europeans. And as we have seen, even they did not do it all by themselves. The Chinese, the Indians, the Persians, and the Arabs all gave something before it came about. So what they're saying is that the Europeans built on ideas that they learned from other cultures, which is cultural diffusion. So please don't think that these ideas were inherently European. They weren't. They were building on Chinese, Indian, Persian, Arab ideas. Today, this is not hard to understand because men and women from all over the world add to scientific knowledge and so help one another. Okay, so we've identified some changes. So go back and take a look at what you've annotated to identify 2 changes. And we're going to look at outside info. So one of the things that you can see, we provided an example of outside information for you. 2 contributions of the Arabs were algebra and the scientific process. And so that's something that adds to what's in the document but is not directly in the source. So we could add achievements of other places. So we could name achievements of the Chinese, of the Indians that contributed to this scientific revolution. And you could also name some other ideas from the scientific revolution. This concept of heliocentrism should be familiar to you from earth science. This idea that the sun is at the center of the universe, not the earth, came about around this time. The Catholic Church really did not like it, but it has come to be accepted and proven to be true that the sun is the center of the universe. So this was a big concept in the scientific revolution. Okay, how does the topic of this source connect to what you are currently learning in class? You can make a connection to anything that is a result of cultural diffusion. So you can say that the scientific revolution was a result of cultural diffusion, and so was, you know, a variety of other things that you might study, other technologies, ideas, religions. You could also list new technologies or achievements. So the scientific revolution was a time of great change in new technologies, and you can name another place that also came up with new technologies. If you need to rewatch the video, please do so. Thanks, everybody.